guys, it's Candace from Beacon Help Books. I wanted to do a review of what I've read recently and what I'm currently reading. I had posted in my last currently reading about The English Wife, and I finished it, and there was a few people that were wondering about it. I think they got the NetGalley version of it. So I just wanted to say I ended up rating it 2.5 stars. I think a lot of people might like this book. I'm just probably not one of them. Beyond what I said before about the names being confusing with the two timelines, having the two, names being in multiple variations of them, I was surprised slightly by the ending. So there was icing on the cake for the book. It just wasn't for me. And I think if you like Victorian type novels with mystery and maybe a little bit of a twist at the end, you might like this. I just didn't. So I just want to put that out there. I would love to know if you've read The English Wife, what you thought of it, and please let me know. The other books I totally knew nothing about. I feel like I'm so late to the party. Is Sarah's Scribbles on Sean at Eclectic Reads channel, of a graphic novel he wanted to read, and these were nominated as some of the Goodreads best graphic novels, and I never heard of them. And honestly, I actually like them even better than Hyperbole and a Half. But it's the same type of writing and drawing style of a younger woman. She lives in New York City. So this was Adulthood is a Myth by Sarah Anderson, and this was a Goodreads Choice 2016 winner. And then we have Big Mushy Happy Lump, and that is 2017 winner. The first book, because I was so unaware of what it was, just grabbed me. I was like, oh my god, Sarah Anderson gets my soul. Spot on about so many funny things about being a woman, growing up, getting out of college, living in a big city, kind of being an introvert, loving reading. She has a love for cats. So if you like graphic novels and you want something humorous, I think you'd really, really love this book. I gave them both 5 stars. The second book, I think I did 4.5, but I thought it was just slightly not as good as the first one, but they're both so enjoyable. The next book I finished on audio was The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. So this was an interesting story. I had watched Molly do a book review on this, and I have to go back and watch it now because it piqued my interest. It was kind of sad, but yet very odd, and I'm glad I read it, but I feel like I might be missing some of the main points maybe Kafka wanted to get through. I'm so glad I read it. I still am thinking about it. It's a very odd sci-fi-ish family drama, and it's very short. This was published in 1915. Franz is from Prague, Bohemia, which is presently the Czech Republic, Austria-Hungary. So he wrote it in German, I believe, and then it was translated. And most of his work was published after he had passed away, but this one wasn't. And being an author wasn't his full-time job. It's just very interesting. I think if you're looking for something that kind of is out there a little bit, but in a classic way, from a classic standpoint, I would pick it up. I gave it 3 stars. Next, D from Books and Quirks and I finished Katherine of Aragon, The True Queen. So this was the first book in the 6 Tudor Queens series, and we flew through this book. This book was 624 pages, and we couldn't stop reading it. So I think I actually enjoyed this book more than the Anne Boleyn book in the series. As in both books, there are periods of waiting, so trying to figure out, is Henry going to marry Anne? What's the church going to do? Will the Pope ever get back on the great debate on if Katherine and Henry were really, their marriage was real? And so there are times when you think oh my gosh, this is ever going to come to a conclusion. With Anne Boleyn, I got a little bit more annoyed, or / I'd say bored. But maybe because I was buddy reading this, it didn't feel that way. And I learned a lot about Katherine of Aragon, and made me appreciate and like her even more than I did before. And it has definitely inspired me to want to also read more about her mother, because her mother was a huge part of her life in terms, even though she hardly, lived with her, but she was such a great person to look up to and a strong female character in her life that showed Katherine that religion, can help you get through really difficult things. Now, it is quite ironic that religion was one of the reasons why there was a huge divide in England because of Henry and Anne and, the Catholic and Protestant religions being split. But I appreciated Katherine also very much as a mother and her care for Mary. She was treated horribly by Henry. She never stopped loving him in this book. She has a patience of a saint. I really, really, really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.5 stars. So we will definitely be continuing that series. So, the other two Katherine and Anne Boleyn books are long, but if anyone else wants to read along with D&I, the third one that's coming out in May, please just let us know. I think they're great. The next book I read was Olmec Obituary. This is a historical mystery. It's called Dr. Pimms, Intermillennial Sleuth, and that's because the main character in this book, Dr. Elizabeth Pimms, she actually ends up solving murders or mysteries that happened in the past. So she is a archaeologist. It's her first love, and she has to return home to Australia to help take care of her family. She loses her father, and she becomes the breadwinner of the family. This is not a spoiler. It happens right in the beginning. They have a multicultural family. Like, her grandparents are like Welsh, Chinese, and French. And so this ticks a lot of boxes for me. This ticks the Egypt archaeology box. It ticks the working in a library box. I love historical mysteries as well. And I think for a first book in a series, so L.J.M. Owen is the author. She started this book by a Kickstarter. And I really enjoyed it. I didn't want to put it down. I think I finished it in 2 days. And the reason I picked it up was the third book in this series, The Egyptian Enigma, is available on NetGalley. And I don't think it needs approval. I think you can just read it. So I kind of wanted to see if I wanted to pick up the other books before. I think I got this $1.99 on Amazon. And even though I'm doing mostly a no-buy year, if I can, it's under $5. It's electronic form. And I like to support the authors, especially the small authors, but authors I really love. As long as it's not physical stuff, because I'm in the process of moving. That works for me. So I'm undecided. I really enjoyed the book. The second book is called The Mayan Mendacity, and I do want to read that one as well. I just don't know if I'm going to read it in order or not. And so the second one obviously has to do with the Mayan queen. So I like that. I think it's not like the writing is crazy amazing, but I learned a lot about archaeology, which was interesting. So it's a fluffy book in a way, but at the same time, you're enjoying it because you're learning a little bit. So I really enjoyed it. And the final book that I read was called White Houses by Amy Bloom. This is about Eleanor Roosevelt and her girlfriend, for lack of a better word, Lorena Hickok, when the Roosevelts were in the White House. It's primarily from Lorena's point of view, though. Eleanor's in the book a lot, but it's mostly from talking from Lorena. Tells her how her beginning story. And then it does jump a lot with time, which I had a little bit of a hard time with, especially because this is a NetGalley read, so like the chapter headings aren't so pronounced. So then it goes into like when she was really living in the White House, she was like called the first friend. Everybody knew that they were kind of an item, but as FDR was also had other side games going on, it was just, that's just how it was. So I'll say that like it jumps a little bit for when FDR passes away, and then Eleanor comes back in to talk to Lorena, and then at the end you understand their story a little bit more. It wraps it up. I thought Amy Bloom's writing was really spectacular. I was hooked, especially with Lorena being a reporter, so she was a writer. I could totally tell like a writer was writing her. Like I really liked Bloom's writing. I'd like to pick up another one of her books. I just think, and I did learn a little bit about the relationship statuses of the Roosevelts, which I didn't know. But, normally it's not like a topic that I would absolutely love to read about. So I think I will give this around 3 stars-ish. So there we go. And then what I'm currently reading, I'm trying to wrap up a few books. One is Icebound, One Woman's Incredible Battle for Survival at the South Pole. And this is by Jerri Nielson. It's about this doctor that goes down to Antarctica, and she winters over there, so there's a certain amount of time when, it's dark the whole time and planes and things can't reach them. And she ends up finding out that, well, I'm at the point right now where she's found the lump in her breast, but she's not for sure that it's cancer. I'm almost about halfway there, and it's been fascinating learning about Antarctica and the camp down there and just the different way of life and what they call themselves polies, the people that actually live and work down there. And the other books that I'm sort of reading is The Madwoman Upstairs by Katherine Lowell. That's an audiobook, and it's about a descendant of the Bronte sisters, and she's going back to school, and these like real editions of her father's, like old editions of the Brontes, start appearing at her doorstep at school, even though he's passed away. So we're trying to figure out the mystery of what's happening with that. It's really intriguing. The main character is quite snarky, and sometimes I find her a little young to be so confident and cocky, but I think she's got a great sense of humor, and I've laughed out loud multiple times. So it is really a great, enjoyable, entertaining read. I started a short story collection called The Starlit Wood, and I'm not sure I'm going to finish it before the library ends on it. It has Shauna Maguire, Naomi Novik, Catherine M. Valente, Marjorie Liu. So I thought I would like it. A lot of the fairy tales I haven't actually heard of, and I'm not drawn to pick it up. but I'm not going to give up on it yet. And then I've also been reading 2 other books. I think just too many that I can maybe finish before they're all due at the library. One is White Rage, The Unspoken Truth of Our Racial Divide, which is the Hard Conversations book for this month. That's by Carol Anderson, and so far I will say it's completely heartbreaking and sickening. I'm going through the years, and so this is from the past of how African Americans have been treated in our past. And I'm also reading Isabella, the Warrior Queen by Kirstin Downey. Since reading Katherine of Aragon, I wanted to find out more about Isabella. This is a really long book. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to finish it, but I definitely want to keep reading it. It's so intriguing learning about Isabella's family right now. That's really where we are, and how screwed up they are. Like, how she turned out as well as she did, I will never know. Anyways, let me know if you've read any of these books, what you think, if you have any recommendations based on these books. And everyone have a great week. Talk to you later. Bye.